Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church, Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charnley. This is another Shropshire church. This is the ancient church of St. Peter, Diddlebury, again up in the Shropshire Hills. It's a church where there's some mystery about the date and has some fascinating features. It seems to be certainly 11th century, or the nave is in part 11th century. There's a 13th century aisle arcade. The aisle itself was rebuilt in the 19th century, and well, we'll see the various features as we go around. There's also a very interesting royal arms, and absolutely fascinating. A discovery was made during restoration that changed forever what people will think of the Diddlebury royal arms. So without further ado, let's have a look around Diddlebury. Diddlebury is one of the Corvedale parishes, that is the valley of the River Corve, and it's one of the larger churches in this part of Shropshire. Here is the evidence of 11th century date. Now it's either immediately pre-conquest or immediately post-conquest, this herringbone masonry. There's, of course, a great argument between those scholars who insist it's Norman and those who insist it's Anglo-Saxon. There's the doorway, and the thing is, there's not a lot of diagnostic evidence. It's just a matter of looking at the stone. It's one of those few cases where removing the wall plaster has revealed something interesting rather than just revealed that we were never supposed to see the stonework underneath. Now these are the royal arms. They're royal arms of King William III, William of Orange as he's known. Of course, William III, he comes in 1688, the Glorious Revolution, and he and his wife Mary, they replace King James II of England. He's got 7th of Scotland. So he was William of Orange, hence the arms include the device in the middle of the House of Orange, the rulers of the Netherlands. Font is probably 13th century with a Victorian top. Now, as we come around, we have to look at the back of the royal arms. When the arms were restored, something rather shocking was discovered on the back, and it was this. The arms of the Prince of Wales, dated 1701. Well, why is that shocking? Well, I'll tell you why it's shocking. There wasn't a Prince of Wales in 1701. William dies without issue. He has no children, no son. He's succeeded by, in fact, his sister-in-law, Anne. So who in 1701 was claiming to be the Prince of Wales? Well, the answer is rather surprising. It is James Edward Stuart, the son of King James II. In other words, this is a Jacobite emblem. Somebody has painted a Jacobite emblem on the back of the royal arms. If it had been discovered and the person been identified, he would have been executed. But this is somebody who has gone, I am a Jacobite, I am loyal to, Jacobite from Jacobus, loyal to King James, and therefore I will celebrate his son as the true heir to the throne. And that, well, of course we know that the young pretender, the old pretender, young pretender, they never got to the throne, and that line eventually died out. And here we have a Victorian window, the well done, thou good and faithful servant. It's the parable of the talents, and there is the bad servant being dragged off to the dungeon. And here we have the parable of the wheat and the tares. So here's the aisle. So it's been rebuilt in the 19th century. You get back into the nave. You see there's one of the original windows. And the fact it has a bit of a splay on the outside too suggests to me that this is Anglo-Saxon. And a little bit of Anglo-Saxon carving here. You can just see that knotwork pattern there in the window splay, and that's definitely Anglo-Saxon. So this suggests that this is a church that dates from just before the conquest. Here's some later grave slabs. Big organ behind here. The pulpit is a nice wooden 19th century example. What it occupies is what used to be a side chapel. Nice eagle lectern here, and as we proceed, this is the vestry there beside. You can just see some memorials inside. Noel Francis Tripp died in 1958, and he was vicar 1945 to 58 here. We have here a 14th century tomb recess. You can tell it's 14th century because you have ball flower. Now, if you've seen ball flower before, ball flower, that's a ball flower, and it's a ball with 3 petals around it. Now got in it a memorial to Charles Baldwin, who died in 1674. And then here we have St. Peter and St. Paul, looking pair of jolly old gentlemen. East window, fairly typical. We've got a play and unpainted reredos, no images on it. More memorials. John Powell Clark, late of Sutton, is parish vicar of Pennington in the county Palatine of Lancaster. Nearly 40 years, one of His Majesty's Justice of the Peace of the county of Salop, which again suggests he was a pluralist and at least, very least, non-resident. Charles Powell, Sutton Court, obviously Sutton, the big house family, and there's another Powell of Sutton Court. There's the piscina, fairly standard 13th century job. There's another 14th century tomb recess here with that wonderful ball flower. It's a John Flemington, and again these memorials along here, and the 13th century aisle arcade. Hon Gilbert Fleming, Esquire, late Lieutenant General of His Majesty's Leeward and Caribbean Islands in America. So he's serving over there in the Caribbean, which wasn't a very healthy place to be. John Acton, rector of Acton Scott and vicar of Clun, third son of Sir Edward Acton of Aldenham Baronet, and of course that's the Actons for whom Acton Round is also named. So it's an impressive building with some mysteries about it. How old is it? Who was the bold Jacobite? We have here, and very common thing, you'll find the list of rectors. There's one thing we should look out for these things is 1662. Is there a new man in 1662? Yes, there is. R. Shepherd. Is there also a very long gap between him and the previous man, 1599? Yes. That suggests that there is a Puritan, or maybe multiple Puritans, who are not counted. But certainly 1662, that someone's been ejected here, and a new man has been brought into this had a Puritan rector, and then obviously you've got a staunch Jacobite, slight lead into the arcade here. But it's a very nice building, very ancient, and it has these little mysteries. And here we have the window here. It's 1843. We've got Virgin and Child and a couple of angels, one of whom is pointing to an open book saying Verbum Dei, the word of God. So it's a very attractive building. We'll go outside and see there's also a really nice setting, and back past the Royal Arms with their little mystery. And so here we are outside at Diddlebury. You can see this nice long church behind it. You can really tell the difference between the Victorian stonework of the aisle and the medieval stonework of the chancel. The upper part of the tower was rebuilt in the early 20th century. It had to be the building, or the tower was crumbling and leaning, and we'll see when we go around, it's declining and falling all over the place. So let's have a look around and point out again some of the interesting features here. Nothing, well, and there's something almost exciting as what's inside. So here we are in the churchyard, and you can see here, that's the aisle, the porch of course also is Victorian. The tower, the top part's been rebuilt but does include Norman and later, and essentially it's been taken down and reconstructed because it was in danger of taking itself down rather dramatically, which nobody really wanted. Go around the north side first because that's where the older parts can be seen. You see here we've got our Victorian east window, but either side there's evidence of an earlier window, or even windows, but probably just a single, probably a triple lancet affair there, I would think, and that's then been replaced probably more than once. We've got what's now the vestry and organ chamber, but that was someone's private chapel, and I suspect the family either moved out or gave permission for it to be converted. And again, you've got that's one of those arch windows and a little door at the bottom there, which would, back in the day, have allowed the Big House family to get into their private chapel, which would also have been a private pew, which would have been quite nice for them. Now this is a diagnostic here. This is an Anglo-Saxon window. Compare and contrast with Norman ones. Norman windows, the splay is on the inside only. Anglo-Saxon windows like this, the splay is inside and outside. So that is an Anglo-Saxon window. This is pre-conquest. You can see here the stonework, except that it's being stained upward a bit. But the outer stonework is this ashlar effect. We don't have that's a very, very high quality stonework, by the way, very high status. There's the north doorway. So it's a very, very posh building for the 11th century. And it hasn't been extended very much because this is a very small village and it's quite a grand church. And we come around here, we see the mystery on the outside. Whoops. And this is this double arch. You see, you've got this late 12th, maybe early 13th century doorway, with a little head there, and then you've got this arch here and this corbel table, and this arch has clearly actually been filled in. It was originally open, so would it have an open arch at the bottom of the tower? It's entirely probable, but you can see how it's leaning outwards, and this is why it had to be taken down and put up again a bit in the early 20th century, because it was threatening to prostrate itself into the churchyard, which would have been very, very unhelpful. We come round here and we have again these massive buttresses which tell us this building was threatening to fall down and had to be propped up, which is not a good thing. And so back round here then to this Victorian porch, very nice Victorian porch actually, and the doorway again is Victorian. And so there we have it, St Peter's Diddlebury in deepest rural Shropshire in Corvedale, an ancient building with a mysterious Jacobite device at the back of the royal arms. What intrigues, what mysteries there are and have been in this place. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.